It's me again. Here I am talking to you about a very, very fresh new deck. But let's give it a little bit of hype. You can tell I'm straight out of the shower, you know, it's like the middle of the night, it's 1 a.m. right now, like all my videos. This is the only free time I have, so let's run down a few things. Rituals have been in the game for as long as Fusion has, which is literally the beginning of the game. Since Duel Monsters, Rituals have been around, but they've always been kind of sidelined because of the fact that the extra deck over time has become far more important than the main deck. What's the point of having powerful monsters in the main deck when, you know, you could just summon them straight out of the extra deck without wasting main deck space when you could just add more consistency? Then we got something like Drytron and Necros, of course, things that in the past they've just been very, very strong, but we've never had something that really scratched the itch for control players that want something a little bit simpler but more bombastic. Necros is fine, but it gets really, really boring, especially since most of the deck is just floodgating. You know, you bring out I forgot what it's, I don't even know what it's called. In case it's not obvious enough, I didn't like the deck on release. I literally went for Yosenju's instead. But now we have the new Libromancer archetype. This is one of the coolest archetypes in the world because of the fact that it is a ritual control deck that has a lot of 1 to 1.5 card combos that make it really, really powerful in the current meta. I honestly believe that with their next wave of support, of course, I forgot what the new set is called, Dimension Force or something, I think whatever Magic Girl's ritual monster is going to be, I think it's going to be enough to bring them up to maybe a high rogue, possibly depending on how strong it is, and maybe if they get even more support, could be a low tier 2 deck. But you know, I don't want to keep talking about it. I'm going to run down a few things for you. I'm going to give you the main deck, I'm going to give you the extra deck, I'm going to give you the side deck, I'm going to give you combos, 2 to 3 combos, I'm going to give you test hands, and I'm going to give you budget options. The variant that I'm playing, I didn't have a lot of time to test. The deck literally just came out. It's a world premiere archetype. People are very, you know, wary about world premiere, especially after the disaster that is Warrock. But I genuinely believe that the deck has a lot of potential, and even right now in its current state, it's very good when you splash in certain things like Necros, and I've been seeing a lot of Punk combos with it as well, but that requires the new Psychic and Punisher, which focuses more on, you know, level 3 Psychics and E-Telly. But I'm going to give you a pure build. This is going to be mainly something you could use on EDO, you know, something that's a little bit, it's not budget, that's what I'm saying. And I don't think the deck is that strong. I think it's maybe a tournament level deck at a locals. I'm not even the best deck builder. I'm just showing you what I learned, and I've been playing the deck for a little bit, and it's a lot of fun. That's all I'll say. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the main deck. Let's pan down. Okay. Now, I will warn you right now, this deck is very much not budget. I said this earlier, so let's get right into it. I'm gonna pull it right out of this beautiful Gem Accessories deck box. We're gonna pretend like I definitely organized it before I recorded this video, and I definitely planned ahead of time, and I'm definitely not gonna just cut out the part where I reorganized this entire extra deck. I mean, the entire deck. Just don't worry about it. Give me a second. Okay, I definitely did not spend the last few minutes reorganizing this entire deck, and I also just hit my microphone. So what I'm going to say is, I kind of rushed to build this deck because I really just wanted to have Libromancers. So as I go along, I'm going to bring up a few tech options that I want you to try if you're actually playing the deck. Now, of course, you don't have to listen to me, but I think these options are going to make the deck far, far better. And while it is really consistent now, just keep it in mind for the future. What the fuck? For the future. Okay, so let's move the extra deck off to the side for now. Now we'll focus on the main deck, of course. For the main Libromancer package, we're playing 3 Libromancer Geek Boys, 1 mismatch rarity. Make sure you have the mismatch rarity one, or else it's just not going to be as consistent. 3 copies of Libromancer Agent, which is, this is just absurd. There's a very interesting combo that's very, very intentional that you'll see later. And 1 copy of Libromancer Magic Girl. She doesn't have her ritual monster yet, so I really don't even see the point of playing more than 1. Sometimes you will brick. There have been hands where I draw, for example, 1 Magic Girl and 1 Agent, and there are ways that you can get around it because of the fact that Magic Girl exists. But she can be useful, and she's always searchable, so having the 1-up really doesn't hurt. Of course, here we start getting into the ritual monsters. We run 2 copies of Libromancer Firestarter. This card is very, very easily searchable. It's kind of hard to out, surprisingly, because if you've read it, this monster very easily goes up to 3,000 attack, it can't be destroyed, and it can't be banished. By card effect. Both by card effect. Now that I think about it, what's the interaction between that and something like Dimensional Fissure? Well, whatever. I guess that's a question for somebody else. And the card that straight up nobody I know has pulled, this is supposed to be 3 copies of Libromancer Doombroker, which will be on the screen right now. Libromancer Doombroker is the most important card in the deck, and it's usually what you're going to end every single turn on. The ideal end board is 1 copy of Doombroker and 1 copy of Firestarter, but whether or not that happens, you know, depends entirely on your hand and how your opponent interacts with you. Unfortunately, I somehow couldn't find any at all. I don't know how. Now, next up, we're running only a few monsters. Diviner of the Herald is, of course, really good in any ritual deck, since using it, you could send something like Herald of the Arclight right here to the graveyard, just so that you could search any of the ritual monsters. It's a really, really good card, and especially if you have the spell card, you can immediately tribute Diviner of the Herald in order to bring out something like Doombroker, which, you know, doesn't exist here, but pretend that it does. It sucks. I did get one today from a friend, but I left it at work. Aside from the playset of Diviner, we also run 2 copies of Floraison de Centres e Joyu Printemps. I'm so sorry to my French-speaking audience. This is actually not something I would be running. If I could replace it with anything, I would probably say 2 Effect Veiler would be better. Veiler is just currently a better card in the format. You'd also want to probably run 2 copies of Ghost Ogre as well. This sounds like a really weird option, but using Ghost Ogre, you can bring it out with Emergency Teleport as well, if this was Ghost Ogre. You know, it's kind of weird without the card here, so give me 1 second, I'll grab it for you. I haven't been working on the deck well enough, but let's say you have Ghost Ogre right here. You can special summon this out because it's a Psychic, and you can use it to either Synchro Summon. So, for example, let's say you have Italian Diviner. You can go into something like Vermilion Dragon Mech. But in general, I would actually say Effect Veiler is a better card in the current format. And the only reason I'm running Ash is because it is a level 3 name. And if you run Effect Veiler, you also have access to the Celine Halk access code combo, which, of course, is an insanely good combo. Now, the last 2 monsters, I'm really sorry to show this, are Dasher and Celestial. Common Celestial for some reason. I would have liked to get the secret one, but nobody had it. Now, we do run the DPE package because of the fact that, of course, Libromancer Firestarter cannot be destroyed by card effects. So let's say during the battle phase, you want to swing for game or something, but you also don't want to waste any of your monsters, you just want to attack with 2 of them directly. Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer over here, designating Firestarter and your opponent's monster as their targets. Firestarter gets protected by his effect, and then you have 2 free bodies on board. That is it for the monsters. And of course, like I said, Effect Veiler is both a cheaper and actually a better alternative, but then again, if you're running Effect Veiler, you should also be running Halk Celine access code, which is definitely not cheaper. Next up, we've got more proxies. For our spell cards, we've got 3 copies of Libromancer First Appearance. I was originally testing this with 2 since it's so easily searchable off of Geek Boy, but you get a lot of turns where you activate Libromancer Intervention, which lets you special summon a card from your hand or graveyard, and then you just really don't have anything to search, because at the moment, the deck only has 1 spell card and 1 trap card to search. Plus, this card is actually insane. A multiple use per turn ritual summon plus a searcher. This is one of the best field spells I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Next up, we've got another proxy, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Something I haven't really gone into yet is the fact that this deck is very strong both going first and going second, and 3 copies of Droplets helps a lot with that. Since the deck constantly recurs through things like Agent, you will usually have something in your hand that you could send off a Droplet. And during your opponent's turn, if you already have Libromancer First Appearance in your hand, you really don't need it in the spell and trap card zone, so you could just send it off to the graveyard with Droplet to negate something. Next up, we've got, of course, 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. These would be CRs if I could find them. I'm able to get 1 CR from a buddy, so, you know, really flexing in this video, guys. But E-Telly is a 1-card starter that always ends on Firestarter in the field spell, so, you know, it's a really good card in the deck. It's a broken card, and I'm glad we have it at 3. Of course, we have 2 copies of Fusion de la Destinée, or Fusion Destiny. This card was, you know, bumped down to 2, but that really doesn't affect anything. You could still just make Verte and bring this out, but whatever. DPE hit, don't really care. Then we've got our one-ofs, of course, being 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Again, this can be going first or going second. 1 copy of Called by the Grave, because the deck is very susceptible to hand traps. And 1 copy of Terraforming, so that you could search out the field spell. That is it for the spells. Now the traps. We're running 2 copies of Libromancer Intervention. Sadly, just another card that I couldn't get. Of course, Intervention is an Omni Negate, and it is easily searchable by Libromancer Doombroker, which, again, I don't have. There should be a picture on the screen right now. If there isn't, I apologize. Doombroker is kind of an overloaded card. It allows you to both attack directly, shuffle something back, and set up an Omni Negate. And I'm going to explain later how the combo with Doombroker works. But just remember, Libromancer Intervention is their only form of real interruption, so you really want to always have this. I don't know why I'm putting it aside. I'm showing off the trap cards. Running 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is always going to be both good going first and going second, so we're going to be running 3. This deck is still a control deck. It's not one of the combo variants, so do with that as you will. Running 2 copies of Dogmatic of Punishment. This deck is very much not reliant on the extra deck, so it really doesn't hurt to run Dogmatic of Punishment. And then 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's Imperm. I really just should not have to go in depth on that one. With that, we move on to the extra deck. Now we're running the 1 copy of Artemis, the Magistus Moon Maiden. 2 reasons I'm running this. First of all, I love Magistus. Second of all, you need to be able to get Magic Girl off the field somehow. So sometimes you'll open up a hand of, let me give you an example. So this right here could be your opening hand, and then let's say like 2 bricks, whatever. Because of the fact that these cards really don't work well together and then you don't have the field spell, Magic Girl would pretty much be your only form of ritual summoning. So what you would probably end up doing is activate Agent, reveal Firestarter to special summon him, then activate Magic Girl, reveal Firestarter, special summon Magic Girl. Then you can link Magic Girl, because she is of course a level 4 or lower spellcaster monster, into Artemis. You can then activate Agent to return Magic Girl to your hand. With that, you can normal summon Magic Girl, because again, you have not normal summoned yet. You immediately have a link too, which is most commonly Verde, but it of course does depend on the last 2 cards in your hand. With Artemis, of course, we run the 1 Nightmare Phoenix and the 1 Caballero de Pesadilla Unicornio, or Knight of Nightmare Unicorn. No, I am not Spanish. This is just, you know, generic. We have extra deck space, so might as well put a couple of good cards in. Rounding out our link monsters, we've got 1 Win the Wind Charmer Verdant. This deck does have a lot of different attributes, and of course the wind attribute monster for this one is going to be Geek Boy. Usually you just use it to steal Baroness or something, whatever. We've got Cross Sheep. The ritual effect for this one is draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, so that really doesn't hurt, but since we run, you know, fusion monsters, we run some synchro monsters, we run literally everything except I believe XC's monsters, it really doesn't hurt to just run Cross Sheep. Then we've got Access Code Talker. If you are not opposed to blowing a little bit more on this deck, or if you're building the deck online, replace Win with Hulk, replace Cross Sheep with Celine, and of course replace the something, I don't know, maybe you could replace 1 droplet and something else with Veiler. You should have the 1 Veiler if you're running Hulk Celine access code. It's literally not possible to play without it. But anyway, we have Access Code Talker. It's pretty easy to bring out. Most of the time you're going to be ending on 2 to 3 monsters anyway, so it's really not that hard. Next we've got of course Verte, and Verte of course brings out Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. I really don't want to call this a DP deck, but it's just so easy to bring it out, so there's really no point not to. Then of course we've got Entita, sorry, this is Italian, so Entita Maggiore Entis, or you know what, let's turn these around so I can stop butchering other people's languages. Elder Entity Entis. 2 reasons: you could send it off of Diviner, you could send it off of Punishment. Never forget that it's a fairy, so you can in fact send it off of Diviner. If you're going second and you have Droplet, normal summon Diviner, activate her effect to send Entis. If your opponent decides to respond with some kind of monster negate or something, let's say you have Droplet, you can send that. Entis goes to grave, Entis in grave can pop another card on the field. We then run 2 copies of Herald of the Arclight. This Herald of the Arclight, that's like the main card you're going to be sending off Diviner. If you have the field spell, then you could also get Doombroker out super easily just by sending Herald. You know, since Diviner is going to be that level 6 that you need to tribute. Then we've got 1 Crystal Wing and 1 Ultimaya Sulkin. It's very easy for this deck to make 2 level 6 monsters, 1 tuner and 1 not, being Diviner and either Agent or, oh man, Doombroker. But this is just like a funny little tech option. I just had extra deck space. Again, this deck is very early into testing. There's not that many guides online about it for some reason, so I'm hoping that other people give options. By the way, something that I have not said yet, if you have any ideas for this deck, please leave them in the comments. Anybody else, please check out the comments, anything like that. It would really help out. We need, you know, more information on the deck. This deck is world premiere. Nobody's really covering it for some reason. People like TSX1 are ignoring it, or maybe he just doesn't have the entire deck yet, but please just let me know. And the last card, which I don't have here, is Vermilion Dragon Mech. In here, I believe this is Beatrice. So one of my proxies is Farfa, because as I said with the Ultimaya Sulkin, it's very easy to make 2 level 6s in this deck. But I'll most likely replace that with Vermilion Dragon Mech, and of course throw in Ghost Ogre. That way I can Ghost Ogre along with a level 6 to make Dragon Mech, pop multiple cards. It's a very easy combo to go into. That wraps up the main deck and the extra deck. We still have the side deck, but the side deck is kind of a goofy one. I'm just pretty much running cards that I was already running in a previous deck, I believe in my Sword Soul deck. So it's very straightforward. It's triple Droll, double Nibiru, 1 Pank, triple Cosmic Cyclone, triple Dark Ruler No More, and triple D Barrier. You can pretty much run this on anything. If there's anything I would say to replace Dark Ruler No More. Doombroker is reliant on inflicting battle damage, so Dark Ruler No More is pretty much unnecessary. It doesn't say that it has to battle, it has to specifically inflict battle damage. So you don't want to have to play that Dark Ruler No More. Maybe run some Kaijus, especially if you're going second. But for the most part, I haven't had a lot of practice with this deck yet. Now, we're going to go into the combo section. And of course, like I said, please leave comments if you have any ideas for this deck, because I really don't know that well. This deck just came out, it's a world premiere archetype. It's literally been in the public's eye for like 2 weeks, so nobody knows anything about it. Now, of course, the first and most important combo you should know is the combo regarding Emergency Teleport. If you have literally no other cards in your hand and all you have is Emergency Teleport, which should never happen, activate Emergency Teleport. Special summon out our Libromancer Geek Boy. On summon, we activate Geek Boy, which allows us to search out the Libromancer first appearance, which we then activate. Because we currently control only Libromancer Geek Boy, we can now search out our Libromancer Firestarter. First appearance also treats itself as a ritual spell essentially, so we can then tribute Libromancer Geek Boy to special summon out Firestarter. This is not the best ending board to be on. For the most part, you're pretty much ending on one monster that's, if you're lucky, gonna have 3000 attack at the end of your opponent's turn. But it's also immune to destruction by card effect, and it has banish protection. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Next is a very, very simple one, but this is something that you should know because this is gonna come up a lot. If you have any way to get Libromancer first appearance and Libromancer Agent, which is super, super easy. This is gonna come up a lot, having both of these. You're gonna activate Libromancer first appearance, activating the effect, of course, to search my non-existent Doombroker. We're then going to activate Agent, revealing the non-existent Doombroker, to special summon it from the hand. We then activate first appearance, tributing our Agent to special summon out Doombroker. Doombroker during the main phase can set one Libromancer trap from the deck. So we're setting Libromancer Intervention, our Omni Negate. Now here's where this is actually kind of important. You should know this ahead of time if you're going to be playing the deck. Upon activating Libromancer Intervention, we can, this is in fact an Omni Negate, but it bounces the card that is currently on our side of the field. In exchange, you're allowed to special summon one monster from the hand or graveyard. So let's say your opponent activates whatever that you need to negate. Your opponent just activated, I don't know, Tri-Brigade Karis. Libromancer Intervention bounces the monster and summons back Agent. Depending on your other interruptions, that might be enough to survive one turn, but on the following turn, we get another interesting interaction. And this is, of course, a loop. So we draw our one card, whatever, I don't know what it is, I'm not going to look at it. We can then activate Libromancer Agent, returning Intervention to the hand, but because we added a spell or trap, we have to shuffle it. We have to shuffle a card from our hand into the deck. We'll immediately put back Intervention because we do not need it anymore. Activate first appearance to summon, of course, our Doombroker again, and then activate Doombroker, giving us back our Intervention, giving us another negate for the following turn. Along with that, we also have a damage step spin back into the deck. So not only does this very easily break boards, but this is also a second Omni Negate. I was testing this deck with only one of the trap card, and funny enough, I used the same card maybe 4 or 5 times in the same duel. It was against Eldritch. Eldritch hard counters this deck. That's something that you should know right away. But it is Eldritch, so, I lost to Skill Drain in Imperial Order a lot. Well, before the ban. Now, a lot of the hands are very dependent on what you draw. So let's go for a few test hands. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm gonna cut out a few of the proxies here. So these proxies are like Droplet, another Intervention, whatever. The reason I'm cutting these out is because of the fact that if you see a face down card, it'll be Doombroker. That way it'll be easier for you to understand which is which. Funny enough, the deck is now 39 cards. So it was something like 42 cards before. It's very hard to find a solid... Oh, I dropped a bunch of stuff. It's hard to find a solid number for this deck. I'm trying to keep it under like 43 cards. And a lot of people are also playing cards like Extrav. I cannot afford a second DP, and I really like playing DP, so I'm not going to play Extrav in this deck. And now we take our top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the deck is consistent, but the curse of Yugi tubing is the fact that we always brick, so let's go one at a time and see what we got. Agent is a good sign. Diviner, Dogmatica Punishment, Geek Boy, and Magic Girl. This is a horrible hand if I've ever seen one. This might not seem that bad, but the big issue with this hand is that it loses very easily to pretty much Ash Blossom, or Veiler, or Imperm. But let's pretend our opponent doesn't have that. We're going to normal summon Diviner, activate the effect of course, sending our Herald of the Arclight to the graveyard. Herald of the Arclight is going to trigger in the graveyard, adding to our hand. We could pretty much go for like anything here, but I'm going to probably say Doombroker is always the way to go. Ah, man, this is tough. We're going to reveal Doombroker to special summon out Geek Boy. And of course, with Geek Boy's effect, we're going to be searching our Libromancer first appearance. We then activate first appearance, which will give us our search for our Libromancer Firestarter. There he is. Now, let me point out, we still have 5 cards in our hand, but 3 extra cards on the field. This is why Forbidden Droplet is such a good card in this deck, because this card, or this deck, very, very easily trades 1 for 1 in the deck. So you'll always end up with the same amount of cards on the field. But either way, here's where we can start actually playing the game. We're going to activate Libromancer first appearance, tributing Libromancer Geek Boy to summon out Firestarter. Now, of course, the order will matter, and I'm not the best at this deck. I literally only just picked it up, but let's see what I could do here. I'm going to reveal Doombroker, special summoning out Agent. And then, of course, using Agent's effects, we're going to recur Geek Boy. At this point, we still have 4 cards in our hand, 4 on the field, including one of our boss monsters. Now, if you really want to like get greedy, you know your opponent isn't playing any hand traps, they're playing like Eldritch or something, and it's game 1, somehow you know that they're playing it in game 1 and they don't have Lava Golem, you can from this point special summon out Magic Girl, of course, by revealing Doombroker. There's very little space right now for me to do more here, so let's try to space this out. We're going to link off our Diviner and Magic Girl in order to bring out Verte. Let's say right there. And we're going to activate first appearance, tributing Agent to summon out our Doombroker. I'm going to activate Doombroker's effect, setting our copy of Libromancer Intervention. And then with our Dogmatic Punishment in our hand, we're also going to set that. I know you can't see it, but that's a Verte. And then activate Verte, of course, paying 2,000 life points, sending our copy of Fusion Destiny, along with our copies of Dasher and Celestial. So there we go, our Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. I hope you guys aren't hearing my radiator like suddenly turning on. So with this hand, we have what is essentially an indestructible and unbanishable monster. I don't really know what this does. 1, 2, and then after punishment, 3 pops, and 1 Omni Negate. It really isn't that bad of a board. But you have to remember, if your opponent Ashes or Veilers or Imperms your first activation, you're kind of screwed. There's also a good opportunity to throw an attack option for when you tribute your Diviner. Because of the fact that Diviner activates when it's tributed to summon a level 2 fairy from the deck, there might be some kind of opportunity there, but I can't really figure it out because I don't play Drytron. We're going to do, of course, 3 test hands. I think 3 sounds good. Playing with an illegal deck of 39 cards. We could just pretend like Upstart Goblin is in this deck. I'm hoping to get at least 1 brick hand so I can explain or show like how that works. But anyway, here we've got another test hand. Let's see how this goes. I'm gonna go one at a time again. Solemn Strike, always a good card. E-Telly. Libromancer Intervention. Geek Boy, and Firestarter. Wow, this is definitely something. So the big problem with this one is the fact that there just aren't a lot of options currently in the deck. Yeah, you guys seen how weird this card is? Like, why does my Libromancer Geek Boy have so many letters messed up here? Now, we always want to bait out the negate on something like this. So we're going to start by using E-Telly. That way, if our opponent has Ash, they blew it. We're going to pretend like they do have the Ash, so that way we're running with a 4-card hand. Gonna activate Geek Boy, revealing Firestarter to special summon him from the hand, and of course search the field spell. With first appearance in our hand, we're gonna activate it. Using it to search, Libromancer Agent is probably the best option here. We're then gonna activate Agent, revealing Firestarter to special summon him from the hand, and then activate the field spell, tributing Geek Boy to special summon Firestarter. With that, we can activate Agent, adding Geek Boy back to our hand, and then setting Intervention and Solemn Strike. We're left with an indestructible, unbanishable monster, and 1 monster negate, 1 Omni negate. Oh man, it sure is nice when my radiator starts making noise while I'm recording a video. Now, an important one to consider is also the fact that Libromancer intervention during your opponent's turn while you use the Omni Negate, you're bouncing your ritual monster back. And upon bouncing, you are special summoning back out Geek Boy, which is going to give you the search for the field spell again. The reason this is important is because of the fact that if your opponent is actually able to out your entire board, you're still able to use a second first appearance, well I guess at this point it's second appearance, to bring back out Firestarter. Okay, so we got our 2 test hands, now let's go into one more. This deck is nothing if not consistent. Like, I'm a big Unchained and Magistus player, but those decks do not have that same level of consistency as much as I love them. Oh, that is 6 cards. Let's put that bottom card back down. Now, of course, these are going first hands, and the deck is actually really good going second, but let's see how this goes. We got Ash, Fusion Destiny, Magic Girl, first appearance, and punishment. This is a very strange hand. This hand is actually really painful because of the fact that we only have Magic Girl, and this is why we run her at 1, because of the fact that she really does not do anything. I guess our only real option here would be using first appearance, of course, to search. You could go for Doombroker and use the Ash as one of the materials, but I think that's very greedy, to put it very lightly. I'd rather have the 1 negate from the Ash than have Doombroker, especially because if Doombroker actually leaves the field, and if we're not able to draw into another monster, for example, we wouldn't be able to bring it back out. We would just be stuck with a Magic Girl on board. Anyway, with this, we're going to, of course, activate Firestarter, special summon Magic Girl, in defense usually. Then activate first appearance, tributing Magic Girl, special summoning out Firestarter. With that, we use Fusion Destiny, very simple. Send Dasher and Celestial. Remember that Firestarter cannot be destroyed by card effect. That is always, this is what I'm driving home. That's the reason you play this card. We then have our 1 punishment that we're going to set. And 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, and if you're counting Entis, 4 interruptions. This deck is super solid. Now we're going to get into the very budget options. Ash, of course, is Ash. Like I said, Ghost Ogre and Effect Veiler are what I want to recommend more than anything. It's funny because I actually have both, but because I don't have Vermilion Dragon Mech, I haven't bothered putting it in yet. The reason you run this is because of the fact that the deck's going to be going second a lot. So you want to have the interruptions. 2 of this plus 2 imperms. Hopefully you see 1 of them. If not, you've got the playset of Forbidden Droplet to also break boards. As I said about imperm, this card is like still pointlessly expensive for some reason. If you want, you could straight up replace these 2 with Ghost Ogre and Effect Veiler. But, you know, those cards are very specific, and you never know what you're going to be playing against. Certain decks just don't win. Certain decks just don't get affected by Ghost Ogre. Effect Veiler pretty much hits anything, though. Next up, the Fusion Destiny package. Because my deck is a 43 card deck, there's a lot of space to cut this down. If you're not playing this, what I would honestly recommend is playing Pot of Extravagance, which is, I'm pretty sure, very cheap out of the new Maximum Gold rarity. This is, of course, like not a budget variant by any stretch, because you're going to be running Verte, which is like a $5, $10 card if you're playing in gold. These are like $20 a piece, Dasher is like $20, and Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer is like $80, $90. So if you don't want to play them, replace it with Extrav, which is going to give you a lot more. It's going to make the deck a lot simpler for that reason, because you're not really going to have a lot of extra deck stuff to go into. Dogmatic Punishment, there's really no reason to ever replace this card, but if you don't want it, just run a different trap card, run IDP, I don't know what to tell you. Diviner is, this is a hard one. So Diviner is a really good card. Especially in this deck, this card by itself just wins games. This, like when you normal summon it, can do so much for you. Literally no matter what, if you have another Libromancer card in your hand, you're gonna benefit off of having Diviner. If I'm not mistaken, aside from this first appearance, this was pretty much my first test hand, and I was still able to end on a board with 3 or 4 not negates, interruptions. But if you really want to replace it, you could replace it with, what was it, Manju or Senju, the one that searches monsters. Forbidden Droplet, it's just Forbidden Droplet. Replace it with Forbidden Chalice if you're trying to get a budget variant. They both do the same thing. This one just doesn't target and it can't really be responded to depending on the situation. Droplet's an expensive card. I literally just somebody I know happened to get a couple of Droplets, so I picked these up. That should be it for the budget cards for the main deck. If you're going on the side deck though, so this was originally Beatrice. Vermilion Dragon Mech is still a really cheap card, especially if you're going for the Ghost Ogre variant. You can run Beatrice and one copy of Farfa in the main deck. That's what I was testing, but I just wasn't a big fan of it. This is a very budget option. Both of these cards, when they're low rarity, are like 50 cents or $1. So I would, if you're playing it cheap, especially if you're playing extra, you don't need them that badly. This is just, like I said, it's just a fun tech option. It really, I don't even know if it's ever going to come up. If you are not playing Diviner, you don't really need Herald of the Arclight. It's not like you're going to destroy something by sending it off Dogmatic of Punishment. As for that, you could just run maybe more level 6 or level 9 synchros. You could look for Virtual World for that. Entis, Punishment is cheap. I would still recommend playing this. If you're playing extra, play a third one. Access code. This, even at its cheapest rarity, it's what, like 40, 50 bucks? You can replace this with Unchained Abomination. Or, of course, Boral Sword Dragon, but I recommend Unchained Abomination. It's a lot better for removal and destruction. Cross Sheep is really cheap. You know, whatever. Play it. Win is fun. This and Lina are both very viable in the deck, but up to your discretion. You can get both these Nightmares for very cheap. Just don't even bother. This card is going to be a bit of a toughie because of the fact that it's kind of expensive. I think right now it's reaching somewhere around the $20 mark for the Ultra Rare. It's pretty much unnecessary. If you want, you could just play Almirage. That way you can first activate it to... That way you can just, you know, normal summon it first, sends it to the graveyard for Almirage. Then you can go ahead and activate Agent's Effect, adding it back and activating its effect in hand to special summon it. I just prefer to special summon it before blowing the normal summon. Just holding on to the normal summon in case something else comes up later in the turn. Then Dragoon Engine, or wow, that's really ingrained in my head. DP Engine, you know, do with that as you will. I am not your mother. If you really, really want to, literally just run like a bunch of random stuff. Look at like a random Flunderies deck profile or something. Because the extra deck is not the most necessary in this deck. A lot of people will probably just be playing Extravagance, Punishment, and nothing else. Anyway, that's my Libromancers. I hope you enjoyed the video. I did what I could within the very limited amount of time. Like, this deck literally went on pre-release 2 days ago. And I'm still missing a lot of the cards. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you learned something. And I hope that this deck gets a lot of support. I hope Magic Girl's Ritual Monster is really good. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you have fun with the deck. And have a great day and or night.